Hey everyone, and welcome back to Swift Guitar Lessons. Today we're going to talk about a very common but deceptively simple technique called string bending. This is something that every guitar player tries to get into their repertoire, but very few players get it just right. So in this lesson, we're going to talk about how to conjure the most strength when bending your strings, and also how to get your pitch spot on using a tuner. Let's get started. Okay, we have a close look at the neck, and we're going to start off learning how to bend strings properly. The only prerequisite that we're going to need is probably our pentatonic scale. We're going to be doing it in the key of A. Alright, so that was 5, 8, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 8, 5, 8. And it's notes from that scale that we're going to be bending on. Okay, so we're going to go to the 7th fret of the G string right out of that pentatonic scale. And this is where we're going to learn how to bend. So the first thing that we want to do, a lot of players, they tend to try to bend up with just one single finger. And really, we're just not strong enough to do that. So the first thing we need to get down is get our tip of the finger just beneath your fingernail there, and line up your middle finger and your first finger, so that way each finger is pushing up on the string. You can go ahead and give that a try now. We can bend upward on this string, and we can also bend downward. The other thing that I want to mention is my hand is kind of turned sideways with the side of my hand buttoned up against the underneath part of the guitar neck. And that's basically just put me into position so that way I can get my thumb up on top and use it as kind of a counter pressure. I'm kind of squeezing my thumb downward, kind of pushing my hand together. It's as if I'm trying to bring these two fingers together as I'm pushing up and pulling down with the thumb. So it's that counter pressure that's going to give me a little extra strength as I'm pulling up on the string. Okay, now that we're in the appropriate position, our fingers are lined up, tip of the finger and our thumb is wrapped up over top, our hands a little bit kind of tilted sideways just for extra strength and extra reach, we can start bending different notes within our pentatonic scale. Now, most commonly, we're going to be bending the G string, starting here on the 7th fret, and also the 8th fret of our B string and high E string. Now, when we first learn how to play the guitar and we're doing things like our major scale and our pentatonic, we use our pinky to reach these notes here. And a lot of players still do, even when they're bending. But you'll find that most guitar players, especially blues players like Eric Clapton and Stevie Ray Vaughan, they're going to be bending with the 3rd finger instead. Again, lining up all the fingers to bend and get lots of strength on that. Okay, so for the most part, we're just bending on the G string, 7th fret, the 8th fret of the B string, and also the 8th fret of the high E string. For the next couple minutes, just practice bending those notes that are taken from that pentatonic scale, and try going back and forth. We haven't even started talking about pitch yet. We're just trying to get the technique of bending, trying to get our fingers nice and strong. All right, now that we have our proper positions down and we also know what notes we're bending out of our pentatonic scale, I can start talking about pitch. This is the most important piece of advice that I can give you. Pitch is so important for every guitar player in every aspect of playing the guitar. So, how do we get our pitch to be perfect when bending strings? Well, one great way to do it is to use a tuner like this Snark here that I have on my headstock. Now, when we're bending a string, essentially what we're doing is we're raising the pitch up, either by half steps or full steps, most commonly, right? So if I'm on that G string, 7th fret, and I'm bending my string, if I'm doing a whole step bend, that means that this D note that I have here on the 7th fret of the G should become an E. Now, if my string's perfectly in tune, there we go, and I bend that string, I should be able to bend that up to the E note that I have here on the 9th fret. So if I bend, I keep tapping that string, I'll see that I get it right into the green. And just practicing that and learning where the muscle memory is, getting the muscle memory down for where you need to be bending that string up to, eventually it'll become second nature. Right there. Now once you get good at bending, you might throw in a little bit of vibrato, which gives you a little bit of wiggle room in terms of pitch and modulation. But if I'm practicing just my bends in general, I'm not going to vibrato it at all. I'm just going to make sure that I'm spot on there. Another way that you can do this is you bend the note up, and then you also play the note that is down one string and back 2 frets. So if I'm on the G string, 7th fret, if I'm bending it up to an E, I can try to match it to the E note that's found here on the 5th fret of the B string. Okay, so that's like kind of pitch matching. Some people call it double bend. And you can practice going up in whole steps and half steps. So that's a common rock thing. We can also do that on our B string. If I go to the 8th fret of the B string, it'll be the 5th fret of the high E string that matches that note after I've bent it up 1 whole step. So I have the 5th fret of the high E string and the 8th fret of the B string. All right, so just a little recap. Use your tuner. Use it to figure out exactly how close you are to matching the pitch that you're trying to reach by bending up. Now, if you're doing half steps, if you're here on the 7th fret of the G string and I bend it up, I'm going to be going for a D sharp or an E flat, same thing, right? And I'm trying to make sure that I get to that pitch perfectly. Right there. All right, so that's my half step. If I want to go up to a full step, there it is. It's just a little bit flat before. And then you can try bringing the bend into different licks, okay? We can try implementing that bend into different licks and phrases. Now sometimes I'll even bend here on the 5th fret of the G string, just downward with my first finger. Usually up to a half step to my major third. Now that note's not in the pentatonic scale. Okay, so we've picked up some valuable information so far from this lesson. How to hold our hand, thumb on top, fingers lined up, and right on the tips of the fingers, so we have lots and lots of pressure. That's also going to help us, or prevent us rather, from grabbing the string above or having our finger roll on top of it like this. Like that when we're bending. So we want to get on the very tip of the finger, the string is close to the fingernail, and I can feel my finger kind of sliding underneath of the string that's above the string that I'm bending. Alright, so perfect position, and then also working on our pitch using our clip-on tuner. Alright everyone, thanks so much for checking out this lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. Let's get to work getting our position right and also sharpening up our pitch. I got plenty more lessons coming up, so keep checking back. Please subscribe. I'm Rob at Swift Guitar Lessons in Philadelphia, saying happy picking.